If you are working in a field that doesn't align with your own values, interests, passions, it is very difficult to enjoy that position. I believe that a lot of us will stick to these roles that we may not necessarily love because of our financial responsibilities and the fact that we have to keep our head above water and keep ourselves afloat. This excerpt stated, could trading the rat race for an alternative be the answer? It comes down to doing what you love, and many of us don't love what we're doing. So where do we go from here?
See the new girl vibe, she in her stride. She goes side to side, she goes tap, 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 tap.
Hey guys, it's your girl Miss Annie J, and today I actually wanted to speak about the predicament of us millennials. So what prompted me to get into this topic of discussion? I came across an article on the Guardian's website, and the Guardian are a very well established media outlet in the UK. I mean, when I read it, I was like, yeah, this is very applicable, because I felt maybe I'm the only one, but it seems that there are a vast number of us. I just wanted to cover some of the main points. They have mentioned we're conditioned to compete academically and then are turned into a world of work where the reality is a painful shock to the system. The lucky few will find genuinely fulfilling work with remuneration to match. It's easy to work like a possessed being when you enjoy what you do and are purpose driven. That I definitely agree with. Working long hours, often unpaid, is an act of altruism that keeps the public sector afloat, as any clinician or teacher will confirm. It is much harder to sustain this in a role that you don't enjoy or that doesn't align with your values. So personally, I agree. If you are working in a field that doesn't align with your own values, interests, passions, it is very difficult to enjoy that position. And so from even speaking to a lot of my peers, I have come to realize that the majority of people that I know don't have a real passion for what it is that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. They're doing it as a means to an end. It isn't necessarily something that they love, and that makes it difficult. So when you're in that position and you're doing a role that you don't necessarily love, and then it becomes high pressured, very stressful, we end up crumbling. And I am of the belief that this is why there is such a major epidemic of people suffering with mental health issues. A number of years ago, my mental health was really failing. I was in a job that was high pressured, highly stressful. Things in my life just weren't going great. And those of you that have been around my channel for a while will know that I also deal with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And so at that time, I approached my GP, who then enlisted me to have counseling sessions and CBT sessions, cognitive behavioral therapy. As part of my counseling treatment, I was given access to a platform which was shared by many other people who were going through the same sort of predicament. They were suffering from some sort of mental health challenge. And I have spoken about this, by the way, in one of my previous videos about trauma. Guys, the people that were on this platform, everybody, like I'm talking office workers, doctors, solicitors, people that work for the police force, retail workers, engineers, architects, like literally there was everybody. There was no set group of people. It was a complete mixture. People who you wouldn't expect would be on this platform. But we were all there because we were having a really tough time with life. We were able to share our experiences and what we were going through at that point in our lives. It was overwhelming. I just could not believe it. So when I read this article, it just hit home, because I thought even from going through that back in 2020, it might have been 2019, but to see that level of people in those types of professions from across the board made me realize that none of us are immune to this situation. You can be in the most well-paid job. Like, you cannot judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody is an investment banker does not necessarily mean that they absolutely love and enjoy what they do. There may be many people who do, and I'm sure that there are loads of people who feel fulfilled in the jobs that they have. But from that experience, being on that platform, and from speaking to the people in my life who are from our generation, the millennials, I've come to realize that the majority of people are not feeling satisfied in what they are doing as a profession. And when it gets to a point where it's stressful and it's difficult, our mental health starts to fail. So anyway, I wanted to interject and just add my 2 cents to that part of the article. Sorry, another thing where they have mentioned that it is easy to work like a possessed being when you are walking in your passion and you are doing something that aligns with your values and is something that you love. I cannot agree more, because even my venture into creative writing, doing my YouTube videos, my Instagram reels, my TikTok videos, guys, I can do this stuff all day long from sun up to sundown because I love it. I'm passionate about sharing my message, inspiring other people. The creative world is something that I truly love. I love writing music. My intro, see the new girl vibe, that's me, okay? The creative world is what I love doing. So when they have mentioned it is easy to work like a possessed being, it is so true. And there was one time that I popped a post on my Instagram and I said that people who are walking in their passion will be willing to work a 70-hour week to avoid a 35-hour a week 9 to 5. And that philosophy is so real, just based on my own experience. I've taken time out of the 9 to 5. If you've seen my video that I quit my job from months back, I'm actually going to be venturing back into the working world because I need to keep myself afloat financially. But returning back to that, knowing that I have found what I love and enjoy, I feel like this time my experience will be different. I know that I have my calling and what I want to work on in my personal time. So now my time has become such a precious commodity to me because when I'm not working, as far as I'm concerned, I need to be keeping all my projects afloat. And it's easier to do, even though it will probably tire me out, because I love it. And this time that I've had away from the rat race has been so fulfilling for me. The way my circumstances all tallied up from the back end of 2023 into 2024, I was in a position where the best thing to do for me at the time was to leave my job. So when I left my role, I decided that, you know what, whilst I'm not working, this is a great time to invest in what I want to do. I decided to take up a course, and from taking up that course, I then built and designed my own website, the one that you see in my descriptions, at the end of my video reels and things like that. I built and designed that website on my own, following the course that I had taken and what I had learned. And then following that, I started to become active on my Instagram. And then some months later, I started to become active on my TikTok and have been posting consistently. I have been working harder whilst I have not been in the rat race than when I was in the rat race. And do not get me wrong, when I was in the rat race, I worked very hard. I am a diligent worker because that is my natural work ethic. It's my character. Putting that into what I love and enjoy doing, I have been working relentlessly. People that know me in my private life will be able to concur. I went back to the gym whilst I was in my previous job, okay, before I left. So from last May, 3 to 4 times a week. And as of this summer, I have been going 4 times a week. There's been weeks now where I go 5 times a week. And then I come home, I start to put into motion my projects. I work on everything that I'm doing across all my social media platforms. And having now explored this venture for some years, because my YouTube started in 2022, I can agree that being a content creator does take a lot of effort. But guys, despite all of that, I have never experienced so much fulfillment in my adult years. And so that is why this article just resonated with me on all levels. Anyway, I've interjected enough, so let me read more. You might be sitting there and thinking, yeah, do you know what, this is my life. Or you might be thinking, I totally agree, I'm in a 9 to 5 and it's not my favorite thing to do. The writer has said, at a recent social event, I was greeted by an old acquaintance with, "What are you doing these days?" The question was designed to elicit professional and material status, understanding that my actual well-being counted for naught. It's true, when you meet other people, you see other people who are more acquaintances than friends necessarily. Even for me, being in contact with like my old work colleagues, when they've messaged me and they're like, oh, what have you been up to, and etc etc, if they follow me on my social media, then they will see what I've been up to. Equally, there are so many people from my past workplaces and stuff like that who don't know what I do. So if they do send me a WhatsApp message and they're asking me, how have you been? What have you been up to? I don't know why, but I've almost found it difficult to explain, because it's like the rat race is so much the thing to do. It's so much the expected lifestyle that when you are doing something different or opposite, it's like you're going against the grain and you almost feel like you are betraying society. When I've spoken to people, I've always kind of like played down what I do because I feel like they're not necessarily going to understand it. There's only like a close few in my life who understand what it is I'm doing. They get it, right? They see my passion, my vision the way that I see it. But for other people, and I actually used to be like this as well when I was in the 9 to 5 life, it's almost like you're exiting the office work life to do your own thing. How interesting. Like I used to be that person as well. And so now that I am the person that is going against the grain, it has been kind of difficult to explain to people. So honestly, I've kind of just kept my business to myself. Do you know what? If they find me or they see me somewhere, they happen to come across my social media, which has happened to me, by the way. I've had an old work colleague message me and be like, you came up on my TikTok. Then I'm like, okay, that's fine. But in terms of like actively advertising and telling people, I don't. I keep it to myself. There's not anything really that the 9 to 5 world can offer me that I would feel like, yes, this is what I want to do. And the roles or the areas of work where I do feel that it would be aligned with my passion, it's difficult to break into those sectors when you don't have direct experience. That is another thing that I have learned from this journey. You know, applying for roles in another sector, I've just been getting overlooked because everybody wants somebody who is going to be able to hit the ground running, essentially. And fair enough, you know, but the only issue that I have with that is that if you are trying to venture into something different, you're at a disadvantage and it is difficult to do. So then if I said I was going to go back into the 9 to 5 world on a full-time basis, I would feel trapped within the sector that the majority of my career history is actually in. I do believe that there are other people who may be experiencing this. You just would like a change, or you want to do something that aligns more with your values, your passion, and breaking through the door can be challenging. Anyway, it's even more reason why this article really hit home for me. So I'm going to skip some sections, but I will pop the link to this article in the description box if you want to read it for yourself. But because I'm talking quite a bit, I just want to skip to the juicy bits. A basic income model might just allow people to play to their strengths and use their time for the greater good before market forces prevail. So what I got from that, it might be worth, if someone is in a financial position to do so, to take a role that isn't as demanding, you know, like entry level, to then be able to put your time and energy into what it is that you're passionate about. So I believe it's about tailor making your work life to fit around your own passions and your values and your goals. That is going to look different for everybody. I've got friends who hold quite senior positions and their lifestyle suits their income. And so it's not as easy for them to just walk away from a role that pays them a certain amount, because that would affect the rest of their surroundings, their financial responsibilities. So it is different for everybody. Not everyone has the option to be able to move back home with parents, as another example. Some people's parents might have passed away. Maybe they live somewhere else, they live abroad, or they live really far away from where you work. And so what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for somebody else. It's a bit of a balancing act. That's why I say that you're tailor making your work life in accordance with what you want to do. Like, how can I position myself to have a bit more free time? Or how can I position myself to have a role that is less burdensome as such, so that I have a freer mental capacity to focus on my passion and what it is that I actually want to do. I believe everybody's creation of this lifestyle, per se, is going to look different because we have all got different responsibilities. And, again, some people might have children, a mortgage, and things like that. So it's not always just that easy to be able to step back from a job that you may not particularly like to follow your dreams. That's why I agree that rat race can be a trap almost. So following this article, there were actually readers who responded. Some of the feedback that people gave I found really interesting. Now, I can't say if they are all millennials. It seems like at least a few of them are. And I wanted to read like one or two of their responses so that we can get a feel of what other people, what they think about this. So someone has said that this article, as a millennial who quit the London mortgage career rat race, is hit exactly on their dilemma. So they have said, I just finished a PhD in macroeconomics and public policy at the University of Leeds, getting to spend a luxurious 4 years near my Yorkshire family. But now that I have a doctorate and am mid-career with a decade of policy experience, the relevant jobs are all in London. So that is another predicament. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in the UK, a lot of the jobs that people want when they have finished university tend to be in London, and people live far and wide. I mean, England is a massive, the UK is a massive place. Then it's like, have I got to relocate? And I know that a lot of people do actually relocate. There are people who will travel, who will commute from far and wide distances to come to their place of work in the city. And in the roles that I have known people who lived ages away from where our office was. Like, they're traveling 2 hours to get to work. This is when we were doing Monday to Friday in the office before COVID. Obviously, after COVID, it all changed. It became hybrid and things like that. But to think, this is a reality that a lot of people have to face as well. And, I live in London. Before, I never really thought about it like that. But after time, and after living outside London myself, I realized that for a lot of people, this is another issue. So this person has said, I am fortunate in being at a relatively decent pay level, even in the public sector with its decades of pay stagnation. So I can avoid the rabbit hutch style shared housing, which was almost bearable as a sociable 20-something, but would crush my sanity now as a 35-year-old. So this person's a millennial. But do I want to spend the next 3 decades working only to pay the mind-boggling mortgage on a tiny flat in the big smoke? Anyone that knows London, lives in London, knows that London is expensive. Living with parents isn't ideal, they said, but a part-time barista job in a cozy market town with not a single work email boring into my soul every hour of the day and night feels much more conducive to my well-being. So this goes back to what I've been saying, okay, that some of us are we're getting tired of the high-pressured, high-stress lifestyle, and actually we just want to enjoy life. I know that feeling when you're getting emails pouring in left, right, and center. Like, you're on annual leave and you can't even switch off. You're checking your phone and looking at all these emails that you've got to deal with once your annual leave is over. So you can't even really relax and enjoy your time away from work. That idea of getting a basic job just so that you are able to enjoy your life more, to me, it makes sense, and I can see the appeal. Even for me, if I was in a financial position to do so, I would probably do the same. Just get something that is just basic. My question to you guys is whether you feel like that. Do you feel that you're at a point where you would be willing to do a role where it's financially viable for you, that is not as demanding as a role that you might be doing now, just so that you have that improved well-being? Because after a while, when you've done it for ages and ages and ages, it's like, I kind of just want my life back. I kind of just want to be able to just enjoy my life. Yeah, so I get it. A lot of these 9 to 5, these office roles, they can be quite pressurized. And when you're sustaining a role like that over a long period of time, it does take a toll. And like I said earlier, it makes sense to me that there were so many people on that mental health platform from all these prestigious professions, because it was probably, it just gets a lot after a while. A lot of workplaces will champion and speak about having a good work life balance, but actually, we should have a good life work balance. As my friend was telling me on the phone the other day, life should be the priority and then work should be, secondary. I know it plays into life, obviously, but your life is more important. We could be earning all the money in the world, but if your job makes you feel like you want to give up on life, that's a problem. So I get this viewpoint, this response that this person has given. It to me, it makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna read like one more piece of feedback from somebody, and then I just want to cover a few last points. Actually, I'm gonna read two because they're very interesting pieces of feedback. So one person has said, millennials have been handed an untenable position. Most of us are not CEOs or highly paid executives, but pressures have infiltrated spheres beyond that of work. Our generation expected that we could work an honest job and afford to live, but that simply is not the case. We now live precariously and there is no margin for risk or errors. And it's true, the majority of us are not in senior executive positions, but we are still subjected to high pressure in working environments. We still have a lot on our plate. And we go to school and we're taught that after school, you get a job, you meet someone possibly, you buy a house, and then you work until you die, basically. And it's just interesting how that appeal as you're growing starts to decline. I think for a lot of people, like I said, it's not going to be everyone, but I think for a lot of us, this is the case. I'll read one more person's feedback and then I'm just going to give some final thoughts. So this person has said, I have to say, I do not think this concept of a soft life is anything new. As a Gen Xer, I did this in the early 2000s when I gave up my highly paid but stressful full-time job to work part-time as a receptionist in the mornings so that I could work on my art in the afternoons. I took a hefty pay whack, but I had planned for it, and without doubt, it was the right thing to do, and I have never regretted this choice. So this is an opinion from a Gen Xer. Truth be told, I have made friends with people from the Gen X generation. Their concerns have been exactly the same as those of us who are from the millennial generation. Any of you who are watching this and something resonates with you, or you have an opinion about something that I've read or something that I've said, drop it in the comments because I want to know what everyone thinks about all of this. I mean, using myself as an example, I bought my property, my first property and the only property I've ever owned when I think I was like 29 or something. I had my mortgage. I also had my rent. It was a shared ownership property. And shared ownership is you buy a percentage of the property because you can't afford to purchase it at full market value, right? Because London is expensive. So I bought it on a shared ownership scheme. I had my home. I had a good job on paper from how other people would see it. I've always driven. I had my car. I very much looked like Miss Independence. And yet, despite all of that, I did not feel fulfilled. I loved living in my home, but I wasn't really feeling like I was enjoying life. And then coupled with that, obviously the condition that I have, PMDD, and then at certain points, my day job becoming really stressful with the combination of the symptoms of the condition, I just sat there and I thought, is this what you want to do until you retire, Annie? But the thing is, I didn't know what I actually wanted to do. I knew the things that I enjoyed and what I liked doing, but I couldn't put my finger down. You know, some people finish college or university and they're like, I want to get into this profession, and they just know from early. I wasn't one of those people. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do for a very long time. I just knew that I liked making money, and so I got into the workforce when I was like 18, 19. Having bought my flat and I had my house and all of that, I was like, okay, so I've got all these things now, the things that they teach us to aspire to have. What next? It's nice to have, but it didn't bring me real joy. Funnily enough, the struggles that I went through with the condition that I have is what brought an enlightenment in regards to my calling. And so the suffering that I've been through, I combined with the passion and the things that I like, which is being a creative. And that is how I then arrived at what I wanted to do. So I just want to know what your thoughts are about all of this. Do you feel like the rat race is a trap? Do you love the rat race? I'm conscious of the fact that there will be people who fully enjoy what they do. But I just think that there's an imbalance, and that the people who don't enjoy it, in my opinion, from the friends and connections that I have in my personal life, I would say based on that small pool of people, that there is an imbalance, and the majority of people don't love what it is they're doing in comparison to the smaller group who absolutely love what they're doing. So then it's like, where do we go from here? And like I said earlier, I believe that it is about tailoring your life to your values, your passion, what you enjoy, and then going from there and just trying to fit it in with your current existing circumstances, because not everyone can afford to walk away from the job that they have. You know, people have mortgages, children, credit cards, car finance, all types of financial responsibility. We can't just walk out the door and be done with it. So it's like, okay, how do I strategically incorporate what I love into what I do on a professional basis? If you feel that in the future you might want to start your own business, or you're thinking about starting your own business, you know, maybe what I've been discussing, you're already trying to tailor your life to your passions, there is a course on Spotify. They're doing this promotion where there are these visual courses with presenters. And I'm a big fan of Stephen Bartlett. So I believe he is like the founder or the owner of The Diary of a CEO, which is a massively popular podcast across the world at this point. And he has put together a course. I've actually heard this guy speak at the UK Black Business Show, which I attended in 2023. He just seems like a down-to-earth person. And he talks about his journey from coming out of a life of poverty in his younger years to now owning a multi-million pound business. He speaks about his own story, and I'm not going to give details on it because I think it's best you hear it from him. This particular course is titled The 16 Steps to Start and Scale a multi-million pound business. It is not as daunting as it sounds, I promise you. He just puts into perspective a lot of the concerns probably a lot of us have in regards to starting a business. Because even for me, what I do, I feel like this is my own personal business. Before I got started with it, I was really sort of scared and nervous, and I had a lot of fear and doubt about it. And actually I was meant to start my YouTube channel in 2014, but because of the fear, I did not start until 2022, almost like 8 years later. Okay, so if you have been thinking, you have an idea, there's something that you wish to venture into, you have got to listen to this course. And I'm going to pop a direct link to it in the description box below. So if you've got Spotify, then check it out. And I believe that this course, Spotify are doing this offer where these courses are free to listen to, I think until like November or so. Even if the time has passed at the point that you watch this video, I would still highly recommend that you obtain this course, because he covers some really interesting points. And he speaks about his own story to start with, which is so insightful. You may feel like you can relate to him. Even if you don't relate to him directly in terms of his upbringing, there will be things that will really resonate with you. So I strongly encourage you to check that out. If you're in the 9 to 5 and you are not enjoying what you're doing, and you know that there is something that you definitely would like to work on and to start, you know, before you get to retirement age, and you're just not sure how to go about things, how to strategize and put things into place so that you can just begin, you have definitely got to listen to this course. I'm almost halfway through it and I have been really enjoying what he's been talking about. So check it out. The world has brought us up to have an expectation of how life is meant to go. But at the end of the day, our lives are our own. We should be able to have more control over our lives than the world's expectations of how we should live our lives. If you are a millennial, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. And even if you're not, and you found this interesting, or you feel like there are things that resonate with you, it would be great to hear other people's insight. It's your girl, Miss Annie J.
It's a bright new day. You're here with your girl, Miss Annie J. I'm gonna give them what they want, cause I came to slay. And nothing's ever gonna take my joy away. I'm about that life.